So you have those two legs of kind of RPA and AI. Are those technologies collaborators, or do you see them kind of eating at each other?
When I'm thinking about the future of the enterprise, then it will be super important to have a governance over it. And it will be super important not to block it. But at the same time, we're thinking like one of the biggest questions and the most simple questions that queries that we are getting or P2P is getting is actually about like, has this invoice been paid or not? Do you have it actually in workflow? Because my vendor is actually approaching me and, I don't know what to answer.
Konnichiwa. Welcome to the AI Automation Dojo. My guest today is Mateusz Ślemp, Matt to anyone who's had to spell it twice, a senior manager for AI and intelligent process automation at Amer Sports. If the name Amer Sports doesn't immediately ring a bell, the brands underneath it absolutely will. Salomon, Arc'teryx, Wilson, Atomic, Peak Performance, Sunto. So the gear in your ski bag, on your tennis court, and quietly judging you from the back of your closet. It's a globally sprawling sports company, and somewhere inside it is a team in Krakow making sure the invoices get paid, the robots behave, and now the AI agents stay on script. So whether you're an accounts payable employee sick of answering, "Hey, did you get my invoice?" questions, or a security officer who breaks into cold sweat every time someone says, "But what if we just plug the AI agents into SAP?" you're in the right place. Now grab your favorite katana, or that squash racket you haven't used since the pandemic hit, and let's get to it. Today our guest is Matt, who has been with Amer Sports since 2013. He started in accounts payable, moved into continuous improvement, ended up running an automation team which produced more than 200 automations so far. His team has also been working with AI agents for some time, and together we have just shipped the first global AI agent into production, a chatbot called My Invoice Assistant that we'll get into. We've worked with Matt and his team for like 7 years now, which in our industry is somewhere between long-term partner and common law marriage. Matt, welcome to the dojo.
Hello, welcome, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks. Tell me, your official title is AI and Intelligent Process Automation Senior Manager. That's a very long and fancy title. If you could explain to us, what is it that you actually do?
Yeah, indeed, it's a long one, but actually, it's explaining in a nutshell what I'm responsible for. Because on one hand, I'm responsible for the AI in finance, so I'm managing small AI specialist team, focusing indeed on the scaling up AI, delivering AI solutions around finance, and also promoting AI in finance. On the other hand, I'm responsible also for the team of intelligent process automation, which is like, if you recall, old rebranded, let's say, robotic process automation team, which is at Amer Sports managed by Eva Sączek, who's quite brilliant in making sure that our bots are working properly and are delivered according to best compliance practices.
So you have those two legs of kind of RPA and AI. Are those technologies collaborators, or do you see them kind of eating at each other?
Actually, that's a good question, because on one hand, it is very much collaborators. And when I've been actually starting with AI, I was really sure that it's a proper way to that. From robots, we should add them a bit more possibilities, so they will comply each other. That bot will be a bit more intelligent beasts, which we call now agent, and even more like agentic AI that can use bots on a way. But on the other hand, AI seems to be much wider thing, because we are really talking here about building a bit standalone things without the robot itself. So this is like extra possibilities that AI gives us. And maybe worth to mention, looking in the future, when you think about that agents will be eating robots, let's say, I see maybe two extra things worth to mention here. On one hand, it's a kind of naming convention that I guess business will be using. I guess it was something similar with the robot, if you recall, like some years ago, that what is actually the definition of the robot in the business?
Yeah.
So now there would be a question, what is actually the definition of the agent in a business? I have a feeling that at some point we will not have robots. It will be robots for us and for the audience that are listening here, because those are the pros who understands this in the detail. But I guess from the business perspective, they would like to have an agent, you know? And more and more bots that will be kind of combined maybe with AI here or there will be, I guess, a bit more understood or named as an AI agent, or like this is, or something similar. On the other hand, when we're talking about eating, I'm very much looking into the solution like from Claude, which is called Claude Co-work, which is already basically live. And of course, Microsoft is announcing that Copilot there will also give this possibility to use co-work in the end, which means that your personal processes can be by the end user automated with basically a co-work. So on one hand, like of course, for the business it's still a risky area. I guess we will need to really get mature and understand it a bit more. On the other hand, it is a big opportunity, and we should closely look into this. And that might be the part where AI could be actually eating robots. That it's kind of using like automating your desktop things. But on the other hand, it's like maybe we will not have to like build some of the robots here or there. If we'll get to enterprise in this area at some point.
Yeah, sure. It will take some time and a lot of consideration around the costs and risks. But I have kind of similar feeling that in kind of high volume center of excellence kind of automations, the AI is more an addition to what you currently have, right? Just expanding the possibilities of what you can do. But when it comes to personal productivity, what we always used to talk about as a citizen development kind of a thing, it has become even too easy, right? We used to do this with VBA, which required learning and certain level of technical prowess. Then we had those citizen development robotic tools. They didn't really catch on as much as we thought they will, right? But they were easier to use than VBA. And now we kind of go into this AI territory where, like we discussed this before the recording, you basically don't need to have any technical skills to actually produce something that you can use. It's a different thing whether it will be tested enough and secure and so on, right? But it is possible to do those things very, very easily. Right?
That's a super valid point. And first of all, like it's a great opportunity, and already some of the key users are catching that. Like they see that potential, and they are trying to to translate that things into their business. So to be safe, I'm saying that, like, let's say, like it's for the time being, it's a very good tool for prototyping solution that could be delivered. Yeah. On the other hand, we are really talking about delivering the software with all of the processes that have to be around it. When I'm thinking about the future of the enterprise, then it will be super important to have a governance over it, and it will be super important not to block it. I guess this approach with like having the opportunity to have a prototype from business and then having a team that actually will deliver that.
Yeah,
as fast as possible, because we cannot talk here about like delivering the software in half or 1 year, because it doesn't make sense for the business. We are talking really, if you think about like how, on the other hand, how good AI becomes into the coding, there should be a team, I guess, and the businesses and enterprises have to really rethink and have that like internal teams or either external, whatever, but a capability to use AI and AI agents that will be building in a safe manner those ideas from the business, not to block it. But on the other hand, it will be really tough to control those sometimes bottom-up ideas. Like, it's no problem at the moment to build a macro. It's no problem to build an Office script and put it to Excel so it works. HTML files that are giving you an opportunity to build like your local application here or there. So it's opening so much doors for the business and the key users. And like, indeed, like the governance is the most important part here.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, it has a huge potential to speed a lot of things up. I really like the idea of the business kind of already developing a prototype that they come to you with. Instead of filling in a form, they come to you and say, hey, this is what I came up with. Can you make it proper and give it to us? And of course, the central team will also use AI to build it to some extent, but they will have the knowledge about the security and all the best practices and so on. I think that would be great to set up. When you do, make sure to tell me and come back to the podcast and tell everyone how to do it properly. But I would like to come back to the AI agent that has just been put into production, my invoice assistant agent. I'm wondering, your team has delivered more than 200 automations over the years, and most of them, I presume, probably 190 something, were kind of classical kind of automations. What made you decide that this particular problem that you had to solve with the invoice status, that let's build an AI agent around it and not try to go into the classical things that we usually do?
Yeah, the story is not that super short. So we started really actually with looking on the accounts payable queries that our accounts payable team is getting, because I guess most of us already know and recall from different companies that there are agents that are actually solving those queries, like dispatching them, like maybe solving a few of them or trying to prepare a draft and getting some insight. So our idea was like, hey, let's deep dive into the P2P queries and let's see what is the potential there at Amer Sports. So we did that. Maybe you recall, actually, it was also with Office Samurai that we actually did this analysis with your support. And in the end, we actually have designed like how agentic world could support this in the end. And then we started to think how to implement it, but at the same time, we started to think also, we need to really be careful and think like long-term. And in short, we decided that we need to make some cleanup and standardization first, like from system to process also, to take that into account. So that a bit stopped us from moving further in this direction. But at the same time, we're thinking like one of the biggest questions and the most simple questions, that queries that we are getting, or P2P is getting, is actually about like, has this invoice been paid or not? Do you have it actually in workflow? Because my vendor is actually approaching me and, I don't know what to answer. Yeah. And, end user, like always, sending a ticket, waiting for some time, and the response comes, sometimes ping pong email, hey, you gave me only a vendor name, but you didn't answer anything more that we need, like reference of the invoice, maybe at least the amount or something. So, and then to respond the ticket again sometimes. So it's a really this throughput time that we saw that could be improved. At the same time, we were considering like, yeah, we could actually build Power BI report with all of those data that will be available, like report for all of the users. But at this time, we thought like, yeah, it would be faster, it would be easy, and like there would be a satisfaction, I guess, for the end user. But at the same time, we are causing some risk, because we are giving to everyone in Amer Sports, because the idea was to give it to everyone in Amer Sports, like not only finance. We are talking about like sellers or whoever is doing business with external guys. So we are causing a risk that someone will extract all of those data or whatever happens, like from security perspective. So we started to think like, what are options we have? And it was quite natural. Like, yeah, we could try chatbot actually that could give that answer. We can have a guardrails in there, like don't share like all of the invoices, let's say maximum 10 invoices per vendor with one response. So we are a bit more safe. At the same time, you're getting a really fast answer, like immediate answer. If there's a like ping pong, like you didn't provide enough information to get the outcome, you would get it extra. You would get extra question from the chatbot, like, hey, please provide me a company code because I have no idea from which company, like business unit you are from. So it seems that it's helping extra for the business, and in the end, it's not. It's something that will not replace in the future, because we still are considering to have, of course, this agentic over the queries, but this is something that we still would save and keep this Mia chatbot, which we actually delivered. So in the end, we will. The idea was that we will limit the number of queries to the very fast, because it was really like kind of standalone with really low risk and basically quick win that we could deliver.
Yeah. This is. I think this is great thinking from the perspective of, because when companies try to automate their mailboxes and ticketing queues, they think about, the first few, how do we automate it? But they keep on thinking inside the ticketing system or inside the mailbox. But here you were able to move from tickets to live chat. And this not only automates the whole thing so that people don't have to just go to SAP, check something and answer a ticket, which is not a very interesting thing to do.
True.
But that time to get a response is like seconds instead of possibly days, especially with the ping pong. I presume it could take days for someone to actually get the final answer, right? So as you said, even when you get to automating the actual ticketing queue, this chat can still be there and to offload some of the work from the queues, right?
Yeah, indeed, and the biggest benefit of this chat, of course, because we are looking on the time saving as usual within RPA, on the time saving that this solution gives to the accounts payable. But on the other hand, the more important part is related here to the satisfaction of the client, let's say, satisfaction of the business that is asking a question. If you think about it, like if the business has a question, like query, like what's happening with the invoice, I'm sure he's not already not happy with something. Because like why invoice is not paid, they must have screwed up something and so on. Of course, we know like that different things are happening and so on. But so here was the main our main benefits from our perspective was actually to speed up the response for the business, to make this bigger change, to make this available, to have this immediate answer, to have this data available for the end user. So that's our big game changer. Also, this like Amer Sports wide tool, like it's not limited to some financial people, let's say, as I mentioned already. So it's a really scale up tool.
Yeah. So Yeah, I mean, you have been working in P2P as have I, and I know how it is when people get a vendor screaming at them, and then they scream at us, and then we do our best, but then something is missing. And if we can remove this friction, then this can be a process. I mean, they can scream at an AI agent all they want. It won't care. So it's also kind of added bonus here. But so from the end user perspective, and you said that the end users would be a lot of different people all throughout the Amer Sports organization. So this is not a chatbot for the viewers. It's not available to people outside of the Amer Sports. It's not a self-service tool for the vendors. It is available for the people within Amer Sports. From their perspective, how does it look like when they get a query from a vendor about an invoice? What do they do?
Well, basically, this chatbot is available for everyone via Teams, so which is the tool that our Amer Sports and most of the companies, I guess, at the moment are using. So it's super easy access, and then you basically ask a query about the invoice, and you don't have to know all of the numbers, like vendor number or company code or specifically like the invoice number. It's AI is trying to understand you. If you would say like the name of the vendor, it will first of all try to catch what kind of vendor it is. If someone will explain like what's my business unit, what's my entity, again, not really a company code. You can explain like it's Poland, so it will give you a proposal if it's not sure. And then if you don't know really the invoice reference, which is one of the key things that we have there, or invoice date, it will try to give you like a proposal. Maybe it's one of those few. You can check it out. So basically, it's a conversation for like natural language conversation for the end user. As an outcome, in the end, you get information like this is the invoice that is in a system, or we don't have this invoice in a system. And if this invoice is in a system, you're getting what's the status. Is it paid? Is it not paid? When most probably it will be paid. If it is in the system. So those are really the outcomes from the chatbot.
But those things that you talked about, they are not like if we look under the hood, they are way more complicated than the end user will probably imagine, because say they tell you that they need there's an invoice from whatever Lufthansa, right? But you probably have more than a few Lufthansas in your systems, right? Because there's different group companies of Lufthansa, and then to find the right vendor, and then, as you said, to find the right company code that the invoice should have been sent to.
Yes.
Business users don't have to know those codes, so the tool needs to help them and kind of keep narrowing it down until it is able to find it. The same thing with references. Those are really funky strings. They can be quite long. They can be complicated. Right? Sometimes they need to be shortened when entering into the system. So behind all of this, there's a lot of business logic that the agent needs to go through to be able to talk to the person like a human would, kind of.
Yeah, indeed. And we had to really go into the really deeply in those scenarios that might actually happen. As you say, let's take an example of the selection of the vendor and Lufthansa and the different groups that are there. So indeed, like the chatbot is kind of querying the data for potential vendors that could be there in use, like could be what actually business is asking for or a user is asking for. So in the end, we are giving the proposal, and then the end user is deciding like, I know that this is the vendor, and then we can move on for further selections in the end to give the proper answer.
Yeah. And when those things happen, the agent isn't querying the SAP directly, right? What's the data source that the agent is working with?
Actually, the data source directly from the agent is actually Power BI, like basically data model from Power BI that we have used. We didn't go directly to SAP, even though maybe one step back, Power BI is refreshed once in a half hour. So it's a short delay. For invoice processing, like come on, it doesn't make really the difference. Maybe in some really narrow cases. But here we went with Power BI, not directly with SAP, from different reasons. Like first of all, it was a security reason. So within Power BI, we actually have the data that are only required for us. Like we don't allow agent to go into the core system. We don't want to overload SAP with different queries. We're thinking actually that maybe we should give access to some kind of database. What we are thinking like, this database that we are actually using for different reporting purposes, we also don't want to overload. We also don't want to like open too much tunnels, let's say, to the for the agent to that particular database. So we thought like, we could go with Power BI. There's a technical opportunity to get there. We also had like within our team, Paweł, who's actually a great Power BI expert, who could really help us very, very quickly within the project. So, and we, which is also super important for this case, we had the data there. So, we didn't have to...
You're one of the lucky few who have the data exported. So
Exactly. So we didn't have to, go through the different requests to get like some extra data. And why I'm saying we had the data, like not all we wanted maybe, but it was good enough. It was really good enough at this stage to get there. So that was the main reason that where we went through.
Yeah, I mean, getting it directly from SAP would pose a lot of different challenges. Like you would have to do it kind of low level because through a GUI that would take too long for a chatbot. And I think that's all the stuff about not overloading SAP. I mean, we all know extremely important if you want your people to be able to work on the core system comfortably. But I think it's worth noting for the people who are thinking about such a project that this data security aspect is extremely important. And in this case, rightfully, as you said, in the data that the agent had access to, there was only data that it can give to an employee. So you don't have guardrails within the agent and hope that it's really not going to tell someone something they shouldn't know. You just trim the data to the data set that is safe to share. And this is one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because this was quite an interesting discussion during the project about the amounts. In the end, you decided to remove amounts from the data set, and also this means that the agent isn't even able to discuss the amounts. What was behind that decision?
Yeah, of course, as you can imagine, as those projects, AI projects, those are something in general new for the business, for Amer Sports in general. So, and even though if that would not be new, like we are very careful with what we are delivering, because we have to be at this stage very careful to understand how it works. So within our processes, we are consulting whoever we have in a company that could help us, like legal team from the data privacy perspective, like our auditors to make sure that we are not overlapping somewhere with our proper processing of the either data or in general performing the process. Cybersecurity, of course, as you know very well. So having that in mind, like thinking about the really carefully what kind of data we can share, should share, and which one is a risky one. We decided that really amounts is something that we cannot have. Yeah. Which is a bit tricky, as you say, because we had this much discussion, because for the business, is one of the key elements to understand which invoice is that, because amount is usually kind of unique to recognize the invoices, at least for the business user, not for P2P.
They will often have a question, I should receive an invoice for like 10,000 euro, did we get it, right?
Exactly. But yeah, from the security perspective, we had a few fields that we decided that either like, even though we have them in a system and we could put it to PowerBI and then to the agent, we decided that no, we are taking this data out. So we're talking really about amounts from the perspective of like giving access to someone from business, like really data that should be secured, like rates between the vendors. That we have. We have also different brands, which of course we are one company, but of course, like in some cases they are, I wouldn't say competitive, but it would be a bit risky to show like in details what are the prices here or there. So this was really important to take that out to be secured. Other data that we excluded are like were like who's actually the coder / approver for the process. So the personal data, we didn't want to touch any personal data in that. And of course the coding. So if potentially there would be a situation where we have information about cost center. So, cost center very often is, confidential data. What kind of cost center is used here or there? Like I'm talking a bit about narrow cases. And as you can imagine, like we sometimes have like B2B guys like that are working for us. And
exactly.
It could be like one employee checking what's the rate for other employee, it would be really tricky. So we have to be super secure there.
This is something that requires a lot of attention. A lot of companies doing this kind of projects, they don't think about those small corner cases, those combinations that each piece of the data by itself is fine, but when you combine a few pieces, you can get information you shouldn't get, right?
Yeah, correct.
So when I was at UBS, we used to call this, I think, toxic combinations of data. At the UBS, it was kind of a different story, because it was like, if somebody, even if you mask the name and the surname, if somebody's profession is a prince and they are from this country only has one prince. So it's kind of, right? But in this case, rightfully, as you said, if someone's working B2B, and you can check any amount of any vendor, then you can find how much the company is paying them. So, I think it makes all the sense. And in terms of things that the agent doesn't do, that have been decided to be out of scope because it doesn't do payment confirmations or Ariba stuff or PO queries and TND and so on. So how did you get to decide what's gonna be in the scope for version 1? And also, do you plan to expand this? Do you plan to go in the next iterations with more things that the MIA can do for the people?
Yeah. Well, the story behind the scoping for this particular project was that the idea that we would like to deliver something valuable for the business. So we wanted to balance it. So maybe not go with really minimum value product, but something that would be bringing some additional like really value for the for the P2P and for the business. So we decided this at some point that this scope is enough. Some of the extra things that we have in mind we could deliver later, because it will be already helpful. At the same time, at the moment, we are really looking into the how this bot is actually in use, like how much it is helpful for the business. So we are indeed planning to send over some questionnaires to some of the users to get their feedback. And of course, we are planning the further expansion and iterations of growth for this particular agent, because there's a big potential in there. From the one that we clearly see is extra information related to PO numbers, because some of the business we noticed, and we already had the signals at the very beginning, that they would rather search using PO number and vendor versus like invoice reference. So. Well, unfortunately, we didn't have at this stage enough data, like not fully, not full like set of data that we could go further live with that. It would just take time. And you know how it works with AI. If you struggle too long or stop too much, AI is changing quite fast, and then you have to reset the project because there's always something better on the market that you could use. So those projects cannot last too long. So from this perspective, we wanted to be rather faster. From the further development, as I mentioned, we have in mind a few interesting features or things that we could do in there. But we decided that let's give some time to this agent, and for the business, let's try to promote usage, and let's see what will be the feedback from the business. And basing on the customer needs, let's call it lean. Like what will be needed, we will mostly need it. Then we will focus on this one. But at the same time, we have a sneaky plan coming back also to our. Improvement of the queries, or making the queries as actually an agentic. So I guess the idea is behind, we hope that actually Mia would be playing a key kind of background role. So we don't need to build an extra database to get like invoice statuses. As you can imagine, within those queries, we have to do the queries like, hey, I need a copy of an invoice. Hey, I would like to, I don't know, check the statement from the vendor. And so like almost like I was, I think, checking like 50-60% of the queries requires in the first step to check what's the invoice status. So we already have Mia in the back that could answer, not to human, but actually to other agents that could use it. Other than this, for Mia, we can add some knowledges like policies from P2P that would be helpful for the business users. We could expand maybe to the travel and expenses team, which might also make quite of the sense. So a lot of ideas, honestly.
I can see that. I think it's quite interesting, and again, something that a lot of companies forget or don't really think about is that, as you said, it is a tool built with humans in mind, but the logic and the data behind it could serve other automations too, right? So it doesn't have to be through a Teams interface. It can call an API saying, hey, this is the data on the invoice, give me the statuses, and it's going to get a well-formatted and checked response.
And maybe just to mention, like, and as Amer Sports is not unique, we have enough of the tools. So we are struggling as everyone. We really are trying to be a bit more smart with the number of the tools that we are at Amer Sports delivering and have to maintain in the end. So that's also important.
It would be better to put more things into a fewer number of tools for sure. Yeah. And when it comes to the response, because on one hand we have your P2P teams, right? That potentially, I presume the reaction could be anywhere between, oh my God, the agent is taking my job, and finally something is going to be answering those burdensome queries, right? And then we have the end users that also can go from I really like speaking to humans and I'm used to this particular person checking things for me, to wow, now I have an answer in seconds instead of hours or days, right? So what was the reaction on the P2P team side and the business side?
So from P2P, like our P2P, first of all, was really heavily involved in that project, and they are really, really supportive. And I'm quite happy to have like the P2P team as a specialist that we have there, because they have really good ideas, and also, which was super important, really like wide knowledge around the processes. Thanks to this, our project actually was successful, because we've been getting the proper narrow cases, like, hey, like we have unique here, unique process there, unique vendor here, there. So we had to take into account a lot of different stuff. So based on this, what I can say, that they were rather, in general, quite happy to have that tool, because on one hand, that people that do not like changes, but on the other hand, this one was really a burden. Like, I guess maybe you've been working on queries. Like, I also work on the queries. I actually liked that part, but not the part that I had to like just answer what's the status, because that was boring. I liked solving cases like that.
Yeah,
were really
when you need to do an investigation and check all the mess on the accounts, that's fun. But
that was really interesting. But that was really one of those boring, annoying things that nobody's missing in the end. We are still in a promotion phase of it, so we are slowly looking, like closely looking on the if the number of tickets is lowering and so on. So we will see how it will end, and we will where we will get. Coming back to the business, I guess, as you say, like due to the fact that this is a really wide tool, it's big role of our P2P actually to educate. So we are getting those queries from still, of course. But in response, there can be always added information like, hey, here's a link, please use it. Like next time, maybe it will be more helpful for you. Yeah. But as you can imagine, there will be always someone that I know the guy in P2P. I will make a call, and because I need it, kind of. And I guess we will need that. Like it's a kind of customer satisfaction, and this is something that I guess will remind for some of the users. And looking in the world, for example, like privately, when you think about let's say being a customer of a bank in Poland. Do you have a number to call to the bank? It's really hard to get actually the phone number to call them. Everything is...
Nobody wants to take your calls anymore. That is true.
I don't know how about you. I'm super annoyed. So it's not really a customer satisfaction. But I guess like this is our internal employees, and we care about them as a GBS. So from our perspective, like this is the service that we provide. And I guess for some exceptional cases, there will be still that, and just to make
there needs to be
happy.
Kind of the second line that when the tool isn't able to do something, that for sure. I mean that model that like Facebook or YouTube are using, where it's virtually impossible to speak to a human. It just doesn't work, because there's always a corner case that a chatbot won't solve. But I think the bank example is really good, because I used to have, when I had my mortgage, I used to have a particular person that knew everything about my case, right? I would rather do things through a form or a chatbot if it worked, right? If it worked, it was great. But very often it wouldn't work, and then I would have to get them, sometimes even go to physically to the bank. But then, because it was this one person, I would have to wait till they serve other people who came to them. So it, in the end, probably we're not gonna miss those human interactions in service as much as we think we will.
Yeah, but and that's a good point also, because I think it's a big job of function like myself within organizations also in general to promote of usage of AI. So maybe at the beginning,
Mhm.
like really the business will still keep calling because they're used to do that.
Yeah.
And when everyone, like maybe a bit more wider, will discover that actually AI chatbots, and I'm talking about plain Copilot or Claude, GPT, whatever you would use, is actually giving a good answer. And this is a bit myself also. Like I never liked the chatbots on the bank side.
Yeah.
It was like this old times when there was a scenario, not really AI behind.
Yeah.
So I always avoided it. Now I'm actually really, really curious how it works, and I'm very often
You're probing it,
trying to check, maybe even to check if that could bring me some Python code to check if they made the proper correlates. But on the other hand, I know that I'm sure that within together with the growth of the mindset that AI can be used, that kind of tools will be more and more in use.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine in organizations, those chatbots, like in ours, like with the knowledge, instead of Q&As, instead of like reading their big, long policy, those stuff are growing. So I guess it will be more and more available. So it will be change of our mindset in the end that we will start more and more use it.
Yeah, and the tools need to be good enough for us not to get frustrated and then switch to a human, right? But did you, on this kind of breaking or jailbreaking, did you catch anyone trying to jailbreak your Mio?
Well, they were trying.
Okay.
Lucky, as mentioned, like maybe not lucky, like it was thought before that we need to really limit the number of the data.
Yeah.
The risk that we've had in mind that might happen, that it will actually hallucinate and give some amount. But yeah, it is something that we had to take into consideration. And you know very well, because you've been developing that Sophie Samurai for us, that particular agent. So you know very well that developing in AI era is quite a smaller thing as it comes to timeline and time spent actually on the solution. Is the test phase that is much more crucial. So we did spend a lot of time on the testing and tried to narrow the cases, involved like quite wide team. So in the end, thanks to this, we've been quite successful. And maybe besides this like internal test phase, like P2P test phase, we also had like the test phase with the business.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, there was one person from the business that caught one narrow cases that we didn't think about. So actually, it was good idea from our end to have actually this extra phase that P2P was not considering, because they are not business in the end. Was not considering the scenario that happened there. So we managed to catch it still before go live. Lucky us.
Very nice. No, I agree completely. This is what our experience is with AI projects. There is a lot of testing, and it takes a lot of work to do it well, to do it properly. So, because there's also a lot of things that can go wrong, right? Preparing a good set of testing scenarios and then testing, and then, as you said, doing it in phases. So you give it to a smaller group of people, piloting it. It absolutely makes a lot of sense. I mean, otherwise you're just going to give people something half-baked and they're going to take a look at it once and they're going to never use it again.
And I guess it's a worst-case scenario because you're burned, basically.
Yes.
Like you put this tool, it's like, for me, we had this discussion just before, like about Copilot in Excel.
Yes.
At some point, I've been doing like quite a lot of testing, like how this could work. It really didn't. Honestly, it was not really good tool, and I wanted to test like what's the potential from Claude perspective. I heard a good stories, and I started to work, like to compare. I started to work and see how Copilot works. And now Copilot is a different story within Excel. So it's doing
that is
great,
true.
great
But you
things.
needed an impulse to come back
Exactly.
to it again and check it again, because otherwise,
that is a big lesson, like that.
Yeah.
Everything is moving that fast, so fast. As we discussed with Microsoft, it's even a bit more tricky due to the fact that it's not that clearly announced sometimes. And as you say, like I stopped working with with Copilot in Excel because I tried it once, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Now I know that it works, but it was kind of luck.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also from the perspective of how the tool works, it's worth mentioning that when we were discussing the architecture, it was decided, and it probably should be for 99% of the projects, this should be a rule of thumb, that every logic that we can, we're going to put into the classical layer of the tool, and we will only use AI where classical programming doesn't cut it, right? So the AI is needed to understand the user's intent and to ask them additional questions and so on. But then getting the data, filtering it, presenting it, this is all classical logic. And this way we also get rid of possibilities to like hallucinate an additional invoice, because it's just the data from the database presented by AI but in a nice way, in a nice template, basically, right?
Yeah, correct. And as I told you, I'm in the end in finance, and looking from finance perspective, where we have to be as accurate as possible. Also having in mind that we have a lot of controls around, we have to hallucinate as less as possible.
Yeah, I mean, you're a SOX company, you have to be like,
and even from the, like, we have a big discussion with internally with audit, like what does it mean to have an agent in the regulated environment? Because it's not standard controls that we have to take, or it is standard controls, but something extra.
Yeah.
So it's another round of discussion that we will have, and we are tackling at the moment. I guess it's not only us, of course, because it's a bigger problem. But as you say, if there's a potential or possibility to have a rule-based things, let's go with that, because it's easier to control, because it's a bit more accurate.
Yeah.
We have a much better overlook of the whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about, like, I know, like we discussed that you already have a lot of ideas of where it's gonna go, but like in the perfect world, in 3 years, what is Mia doing? Like, is it still doing what it does? Has it been promoted to something else? Do you have some sort of a vision of where it could be?
Yeah, definitely promoted.
Definitely promoted.
Yeah.
Okay.
After 3 years, it's a senior,
I mean, it makes sense. We don't want it to go somewhere else, right?
Exactly. Hard to predict, honestly. On one hand, those are those things that I mentioned. It's rather clear for me that we should give a bit more data there. That still will be safe to be available. We as like taking into account that there are some from the end user perspective, there's a big, I wouldn't say need, but they would really love to have the amounts. I think we'll need to tackle the topic, at least to analyze what does it mean, like having in mind that we have like 14K employees. Like we would not like to have like row level security by the persons or the department and so on. But maybe for some group we could reconsider, or some key users or something like that. At the same time, I'm seeing Mia as a key chatbot or key agent for the for accounts payable. From one hand, like one-stop shop for the end user. So whatever I have, I would like to check very quickly. I can do that via this chatbot. It could create a ticket if needed, or forward the case to the human if needed. Maybe it could trigger some actions, like, I don't know, request a copy of an invoice for some reason, or maybe copy of invoice still amount related, so tricky one, but something similar. So actions actually that it could do. At the same time, as I told you, some kind of back engine for other type of automations that could be there. So I guess that's a high level vision that I would see Mia in some time. Maybe my invoice assistant would be not only my invoice. But with promotion, it's might be identity change. Why not? So we will see, and we are really looking at it on it with really big hopes to improve. At the same time, when you think about the future of AI in 3 years, I already will not risk at all to say where we could be and what will be possible, because it's so much constantly changing, and there's a lot of surprises that are in front of us, which is like interesting times for us.
Yeah, I share the sentiment, absolutely. It's really hard to make a prediction. When it comes to what the models can do, it's really hard to make a prediction for like 6 months, let alone 3 years. Yeah. And for the people who are listening and maybe they are about to kick off their AI agent project, do you have some piece of advice that you would give them, looking back at what you were thinking last year when the project was starting, looking back at everything that's happened? What would you tell them they really should think about or know or consider?
Basically try to do something with AI. I mean, of course, the idea is important to have a good idea, not too big one, because too big scope might kill. Especially like with big, longer projects for AI, as we discussed. It's a risky area because the AI is just changing and improving constantly. So something with a bit more limited scope, with some nice impact. Maybe before that, try to do something smaller. This is what we tried also last year. Like, we did smaller cases, smaller chatbots with knowledge to understand how that works. Maybe publish here or there some small stuff to check what's the end users' feelings of that, and promote also that AI is helpful. Also, I think trying out in the area of possible. I know that there's a small hate on the Copilot, but it's solving some of the stuff.
Yeah,
you can try out if it's available. And of course, if you want to be faster, because of course, for me personally, it would be the best to have internal skills and knowledge how to deliver stuff.
Of course.
I think if you want to be a bit more fast, it would be good to have someone with experience, like we've had you guys, that you've already had experience how to deliver those stuff. You knew what's possible, what's not possible, what to take into account. It's not inventing the wheel from the beginning. So it's
not making all the mistakes that other people have already made.
Course,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And with your experience, because you're not only in those projects, but you personally, I know you use AI a lot. What's the dumbest thing that people think AI can do, but it cannot?
That's a good question. And my answer varies because it's constantly doing better and better.
Yeah.
And I have experiences from the half year ago that I cannot say anymore because it's actually doing quite good stuff. But I guess, sometimes AI still gets stuck with thinking that it's right, and you're telling this no, you're not really right. And it's constantly so sure, self-confident that it's correct in some areas. It's hard to convince the AI that it's actually making a mistake. So for me, this one is a bit frustrating. On the other hand, it's also a matter of experience how to talk to, how to properly prompt, how to talk to AI. So I guess it's a learning curve also on my end, for example, like how to properly query, how to properly prompt. But on the other hand, still sometimes like getting stuck.
I had this experience recently. I needed to write some simple Python code for an API, just an internal project that nobody else had time to do, right? And it worked, but it wasn't showing exactly what I needed. So I asked it to do a change, and it stopped working, right? And I've been working with Gemini, and I told it, it's not working. This is the error code I get. And then it gave me another solution B, and it didn't work either. So I tell it, this is the error I get, it's not working. It switches back to solution A. And then I tell it doesn't work, it goes to B. And it goes into this loop that I stopped it only by moving the conversation to Claude. I gave it, so this is the code that I currently have, help me fix it, and it was fine. So sometimes you just need to kind of try a different approach, but it is frustrating because we think like those models at coding, they are amazing. Like yes. that's like probably the best thing they can do is to write code. But even with this, even the good models, sometimes something just doesn't work.
Exactly. Like my advice is like reset, go to other model.
Yeah.
Start new conversation. Yeah. Like do not frustrate. Like we have enough of it.
Absolutely. Even though the model can take you screaming at it all day long, it doesn't really help, right? Okay, Matt, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your experience with introducing the AI agent for invoice status. I am looking forward to seeing where Mia is in some time, where it goes. And for sure, once you figure out the citizen developer part, I will love, and I know the listeners would love to hear how it should be properly done. So thanks again, and see you soon.
Thank you also very much, and thanks for having me again.
Thanks. And that's a wrap. The invoices have been located. The P2P inbox has gone quiet for the first time in recorded history, and somewhere a finance manager is using their lunch break for actual lunch. Domo arigato for listening. We know your time is valuable, almost as valuable as the invoice you swore you submitted 3 weeks ago, which is definitely, absolutely in the workflow. A massive thank you to Matt for proving that self-service doesn't have to be corporate code for good luck you're on your own, and to our producer Anna Tsubal, who has been quietly approving my scripts for all the episodes and has never once asked what the company code is. And to Vodzubis Studio, whose invoices, I should mention, are always paid on time. If this episode convinced you that asking a chatbot is less embarrassing than emailing Karen in finance for the 5th time, hit like, subscribe, and check out the Office Samurai AI Automation Playbook from the description. Until next time, posted, paid, peace of mind. Matane.